Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 487. I am so excited for today's guest. We have back on the show Catharine Arnston, who was in episode 234, 265, 266, and 357, all about studying some of the most studied food in the world that is used as medicine. It's a very medicinal food, a superfood. And today we're going to talk about mitochondrial health and healing the mitochondria. I'm really, really excited to dive into this topic. But first, for those who haven't gone back and listened to those 4 episodes, Catharine, I'm excited that you're going to give a quick recap for those who haven't heard that information, because it's really important information. And listeners can go to energibits.com and use coupon code LTH, as in Learn True Health, coupon code LTH at energibits.com for Catharine's amazing superfood algae. I've tried a bunch of different algae on the market, and, there's a lot of companies out there. There's only a handful that I know of that strive to make sure there's no lead and heavy metals in their algae. But out of all the companies that are sort of the highest quality and do the most testing, the rigorous testing to make sure that they're the cleanest, Energy Bits is by far my favorite flavor. I've tried those other ones that the naturopaths push, and they kind of taste and smell fishy to me and chalky, and I don't like them. I don't know what it is about your chlorella and spirulina, but to me, it's the best tasting. And so, yeah, I enjoy the flavor. But the real litmus test was getting our son to eat it. And he's been eating your stuff since he was a toddler. We call it green crackers in our household.
Yes, right. I remember that.
Yeah. And it makes your tongue turn green, and we stick our tongues out at each other. And he loves it as a little snack. But I have some great anecdotal stories for detox. I'm having a great experience for the last few years using it in conjunction with my sauna therapy for detox. And then I have a friend who eats it regularly, and she says her hair started growing in thick, wonderful hair. Instead of having the hair loss that she was experiencing, or the thinning hair, she started growing back thick, and her hair is thick and beautiful, lustrous. And she said her skin cleared up and was healthier. And she just notices, not only does she feel good while every day eating your spirulina and chlorella, but she sees it, she looks it on the outside. So that is true health, is when we're so healthy on the inside, it comes out on the outside. So
exactly.
I love your Energy Bits, energibits.com, coupon code LTH. So let's dive in.
Yeah,
Give us
sure.
the recap for those that haven't listened to those previous episodes, and then we're going to jump into mitochondrial health. So welcome back to the show. It's been a few years.
Thank you. And before I do that, I just want to share with your community that I'm so thrilled to hear that you eat our algae tablets. I do too. But 99.9%, so that's virtually everyone else, swallows them. Because the chlorella does, I think, taste better, but the spirulina is very much an acquired taste. It's very earthy, and it's very chewy because of the very high protein and essential fatty acids. So virtually everybody else swallows them. So, and when you swallow them, there is no green flavor. There is no repeat like you would have with fish oil. So it's an easy, fast, effortless way to get your nutrients and protect your health and your mitochondria, and we'll dive into that. But I'm so thrilled that you and your son and I chew them because I do too. And but I'm used to eating them because I've been eating them for 12 years, which is how long I've been running the company. So
I like chewing them. I like chewing them because I feel like I'm eating a snack.
Exactly.
It's a snack. And then I drink water with it because it's dehydrated.
Yeah.
So, obviously you need to rehydrate it. But I like the flavor. It's at first, you don't know what to expect, right? So the first few mouthfuls, you don't know what to expect. But after a while, you're like, oh, your body starts to crave it. You start to really enjoy it. I like to drink water with it. I've tried throwing like 30 of the little tablets in my smoothie and, swallowing it. I don't know. There's something satisfying about chewing it.
I agree. But for those who don't like the flavor, and it seems to be most people, swallowing is the easiest thing. But I do want to get into what algae is, and I want to segue from something that you just said, which is that it's food. And the first thing people need to understand is that algae is a food. It is not a supplement. Our tablets are about the size of a baby aspirin, and they may look like a supplement or a vitamin or a pill, but they are not. We actually called them, or I called them, bits, because they are bits of nutrition. And algae does exist. First of all, algae was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago, and there is algae everywhere. Macroalgae is basically seaweed, which is high in fiber and high in iodine because it's come in the sea, virtually no nutrition. But what we're talking about is microalgae, which is microscopic in size, something like 1 million microalgae cells could fit on the head of a pin. That's how tiny they are. And microalgae is everywhere. Macroalgae is only in the sea, hence the word seaweed. Microalgae is in the lakes, the rivers, the streams, the soil. Yes, the ocean. It's what feeds the whales. It's probably in your swimming pool, your aquarium. But the two that we're going to talk about today, excuse me, spirulina and chlorella, they are not from the ocean. They are harvested as food crops in fresh water. This is really important because we're constantly getting emails asking people, well, is your algae tested for microplastics? Well, there are no microplastics because that would be from something from the ocean. Spirulina and chlorella, whether it's ours or whether you buy it from Target or Whole Foods, is all grown in fresh water. It's called hydroponic. We're well known for our high quality, as you mentioned, and part of that comes from the fact that our water is triple filtered spring mountain water. We don't use high heat to dry it. It's actually not dehydrated, it's just dried. This will become very important when we talk about the mitochondria health issue, because there's some very important enzymes. I'll give you a little spoiler. One's called, it's a mouthful, superoxide dismutase, which stops the free radical damage of your mitochondria DNA. And that is essential for health and longevity. Anyways, it's an enzyme. And so if you use high heat like everybody else, it kills that enzyme. So you don't get the benefits of that particular enzyme as you would with our algae. And then, of course, we don't use any binders when we press them into these little tablets. And we do third-party lab tests here in the United States. So we grow ours in Taiwan, which is world-renowned for having the highest quality algae. But it's the number one thing is algae is a food crop. And you'll be surprised to know that algae as a food crop in Asia is as big of an industry as the cattle industry is here in the United States. It is enormous. It is a multi-billion, that's with a B, multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop. Now, people outside of Asia don't know about algae. Why? Because it's just not grown here. In Japan, you can't ride your bicycle, you can't go in your car without going by an algae farm. It is everywhere. Here we drive by cornfields or wheat fields, neither of which are good, healthy crops for you to be consuming. But in Asia, it's algae. Now, if I do my job right and I help the world outside of Asia learn more about the healing benefits of algae, and you'll find out there are some that cannot be duplicated by anything else in the world. If I do my job right, we will be growing algae here in America. I've identified Florida as the subtropical environment where we can grow it, similar to Taiwan. That won't be for another 5 or 10 years, but that is the long-term plan. So number one, a food crop. Number two, as you mentioned, it is a super food. I actually call it a super duper food because it has nutrients, as I mentioned, that are not found in any other food in the world. Some of them are these antioxidants, which we're going to talk about, that are found in the highest quantity in algae that are essential for your mitochondria health. Because they are the only 4 that can get into that mitochondria inner membrane, which we'll talk about in a minute. Algae, by the way, is also the most studied food in the world, as you mentioned. There are 60,000 studies on spirulina and about 40,000 on chlorella. And in a minute, I'll just go over briefly the differences between the two algae and what they do differently in your body. This is amazing. So these studies are from America, from universities, from PhDs in India, Taiwan, every single country in the world has contributed research to the study of algae and have determined through all these peer-reviewed studies that it does things like stops cancer, stops Alzheimer's, improves your gut biome, reduces inflammation, protects your mitochondria, is great for pregnant moms, nursing moms, children, energy, focus. You'd almost think it was unbelievable if it wasn't so science-based. And when I started the company, quite honestly, it was because my sister had breast cancer, and her oncologist in Canada recommended she change her diet to an alkaline diet because she said it would help with her healing. They didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was and why it was good for her, so my sister called me, and I did some research. I had no nutrition background at the time, but discovered that an alkaline diet was a plant-based diet, which led me to algae, and then I discovered that it was endorsed by NASA as the most nutrient-dense food in the world, endorsed by United Nations as the answer to world hunger because it has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, 100,000 studies documenting it, a multi-billion-dollar industry in Asia, and the only thing wrong with algae is, ta-da, nobody outside of Asia knew about it. So I decided that I would dedicate my life 12 years ago to helping anyone, in particular in North America, but anyone who's listening, to understand what algae is, why it is so critical for you and your family and the earth at this juncture in our world, and how to enjoy the benefits of it. It is the most effortless, concentrated, simple, safe, pure food in the world, and a gift to us from Mother Nature, and to ignore it any longer is something you will do at the risk of your health. It's really that simple. So it is my honor to be representing Mother Nature here. It's her concoction. I'm just the voice of algae. I can't claim that I made this stuff up. And the tablets, by the way, that we sell, as I mentioned, most people swallow them, but you can certainly eat them or add them to a smoothie, or the chlorella tastes great. We'll talk about that in a second. When you add it to your salads as a garnish or as in trail mix. But they're made like this in these tablet forms in Asia. The company that grows it for us, they've been making this for 50 years. So I remind people when I get on these podcasts, that algae isn't new. It's just new to you. And just as you didn't know about chia or kiwa or matcha or CBD or probably collagen powder until maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I'm here to help you understand what algae is and why it is better than any of those things, and will basically help you regain and reclaim your health and longevity, and your children's as well. But it's not new. It was used by the Egyptians 2,000 years ago. They used to wrap themselves up in it for health and skin benefits. So that's a little bit of a summary, a little quick history of where algae came from and why you don't know about it. So let me segue into now the 2 algae we're going to talk about, spirulina and chlorella. Before I do that, I want to mention that spirulina is a blue-green algae. It is one of thousands of blue-green algae that exist, and chlorella is a green algae, one of thousands of green algae that exist. There are also red algae. Red algae is what makes, by the way, salmon pink, and flamingos pink, because they eat this particular red algae. But I mention this because many of you may go to the internet at some point and Google blue-green algae and be horrified when you see some notice about a blue-green algae closing your favorite beach. It's not spirulina. Blue-green algae is a strain of algae, and there's thousands and thousands of strains of it. And spirulina is one of them, and it is the one that is harvested, as I mentioned, in fresh water as a food crop. It is not the one that's closing your beach. And by the way, I want to mention that poor algae gets a bum rap, because algae will show up only when there are toxins, because algae kills bacteria. Now, the reason it showed up to close your beach is because somebody or something has poured toxins into your water. Now, they could have been runoff from an agricultural situation, or chemicals from a plant, or just more people peeing in the water, who knows? But you didn't see the toxins. But you do see the algae. But algae is the cleanup crew. It's there to protect you. It kills bacteria on your beach and in your body. And when you take algae, as we'll talk about in a minute, internally, as we do here with these tablets, it's killing bacteria internally, just like algae would kill bacteria on your beach. The good news is usually many of it, especially chlorella, it does it while you're sleeping. So it's, while you're getting your beauty rest, you got the cleanup crew in there getting rid of toxins, helping regenerate healthy cells. So it's really an effortless way to improve your health and everything else. So that being said, spirulina, a blue-green algae, first life on Earth. Spirulina, drum roll, is actually a bacteria. It's called a cyanobacteria. Chlorella does belong to the plant kingdom. Now, why you may say to yourself, well, what's so important about it being a bacteria? Well, when we get to the mitochondria conversation, you'll find out it's very important. But in terms of what it does for you now, because there is no cellulose wall, because it's a bacteria, spirulina gets absorbed into your bloodstream virtually instantly, certainly instantly if you chew it, because it gets absorbed sublingually through your mouth into your bloodstream. And because spirulina is known as an energizing algae, that's why we call ours energy bits, and it has the highest concentration of protein in the world. Now, all the protein in both the algae, spirulina and chlorella, are in amino acid form. This is important because this allows your body to get access to the aminos, again, instantly, because there's no cellulose wall to break down, no protein to break down. And attached to the aminos are all the B vitamins. B vitamins are what convert protein and glucose into energy. That's why when you take spirulina, your mind and your body and your mitochondria, and we'll explain that in a minute, are energized. Now, it's not like lightning bolts from the sky, because that kind of energy is a rush, and then you have a crash, and it's based on a stimulant, sugar or caffeine. The energy you get from spirulina is from the nutrition, and you might not even notice it. It's very quiet energy. You just suddenly realize, hey, you're not tired, you're not hungry, you can focus, you can get through your day, you can have a great workout. And by the way, you'll need a minimum probably of 10 tablets. I mean, you could start with 5, but you won't really experience much. 10 tablets is kind of our suggested entry-level amount to take. Most people do take the spirulina tablets in the morning or the afternoon or before a workout. Basically, anytime you're hungry, tired, fatigued, want energy or focus, if you're going on a long trip, writing an exam, we have brain surgeons, students, soccer moms using them. They're great for kids. It's the safest, ours are, safest, purest food you'll ever put in your body or your children's bodies. Great for pets. Pets love them. For children, we recommend either 1 or half a tablet per their age. So if they're 2, give them 1 tablet a day, 1 or 2, half of 1 or 1. If they're 4, give them 2. Maybe 2 or up to 4. But there is no upper limit. We have NHL players that put 75 spirulina in their smoothie before a game because they want all that access to that energy while they're doing rapid spurts on the ice. So you can't have too much salad, and you can't have too much spirulina. By the way, I'm the one that discovered spirulina as a nutrient profile, particularly the amino acid profile, is virtually identical to mother's breast milk. Same aminos and the same proportions, and we know that mother's breast milk is the perfect food. Well, algae and spirulina in particular is the next perfect food. And since spirulina and chlorella were given to us by Mother Nature, I consider it, and she's a mother, it's her version of mother's breast milk. It's quite remarkable how the nutrients are so similar. So that's why spirulina is very energizing. The B vitamins, the access to the aminos, by the way, it's a complete protein. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, all 9 that your body can't make, which is different to collagen powder, which is not a complete protein. It's missing tryptophan. And spirulina also has very high in iron, which is what carries oxygen in your blood. So that's energizing. It's known as a vasodilator that opens up your blood vessels so that more blood can flow to your brain. It's loaded with essential fatty acids like omega-3 and GLA, which reduce inflammation and also support brain function. It has boron that helps brain function. So again, very energizing at the mental and physical level. And when we get to the mitochondrial discussion, I'll elaborate more on the benefits of spirulina and why it is energizing at the cellular level. And in fact, when you take spirulina, some people take it before bed because it balances your blood sugar, and the energy, again, is at a cellular level. What you do once you take it is up to you. I mean, you could have 10 tablets before bed and it would still help you sleep because the energy is at the cellular level. If you take 10 tablets before you go on a workout, you'll have a better workout because now you're using that cellular energy to propel your workout. So it's sort of like, if someone gives you $10, it's up to you how you spend that $10, right? Somebody might put it in the bank. Somebody might go have a great lunch. Somebody might buy themselves a nice little bauble or something. But so think of spirulina as being given the gift of energy, and it's up to you and your lifestyle how you use that energy. You could sit and still be enjoying the benefits of it, and still be energized at the cellular level. So it's pretty cool stuff. By the way, there are actually 2 spirulina products on our website, energybits.com. The second one is called Beauty Bits. And the reason why there are 2 is because I mentioned earlier, I started the company because my sister had breast cancer. By the way, she's completely cancer-free, 12 years cancer-free. We celebrate every year. Saw her a couple of months ago. So women's health has always been a big priority for me. And I noticed when I first started the company that women were not purchasing the Energy Bits spirulina. And my girlfriends literally said, well, you got to make it pink and give it a cute name. And because spirulina has more collagen than collagen powder, up to 400%, by the way, so it builds your skin and your hair, and it has the highest antioxidants in the world, which stop free radicals, so it prevents wrinkles. I thought, well, the heck, let's make a pretty version and call it Beauty Bits. So there are 2 spirulina on our website. They are absolutely identical. I'm not trying to fool anybody. I just want women to feel comfortable, because if you're happy, it's very happy packaging. I design everything, but I can't help you or your skin or your health if I can't get the algae into you. Just holding it outside of your body isn't going to help you. So that's why there are 2, is whatever strikes your fancy to make you feel comfortable, because I want, some people, if they think of algae at all, they think of it as pond scum or something that's closing their favorite beach, but they don't think of it as something that's a remarkable nutritional beauty ingestible. And so all the things we do here at Energy Bits is to take away the weirdness of algae, help you feel comfortable with it, help you learn the science, and understand there's no woo-woo. It's just something that's you're not familiar with, and we're trying to make it more familiar for you and make it more comfortable, because it really does amazing things, and it's all science-based.
And also, your company ensures the quality, the safety, because it really is buyer beware out there. You can go on Amazon and buy some spirulina, but it's made in, and I don't mean to bash China. Unfortunately, there has been a history of toxic things coming out of China, like melamine plastics in baby formula, as an example, right?
Yeah.
And the man that did that was put to death in China.
Oh
So
my
it's
gosh.
not, China doesn't condone this behavior. It's just, it's buyer beware out there,
Yeah.
and it could be a different country that is producing something. It could just be some kind of green plastic powder claiming it's spirulina, right? Like
Right.
this is, as consumers, we need to do our due diligence and choose a company that does the third party testing, doesn't do skip batch testing. They test every batch. They will provide the test results to the public. They're showing their integrity, and your company shows its integrity. And that's why I trust that when I eat the spirulina and chlorella from your company, I know that it's lead free. I know that it's heavy metal free. I know that it's not filled with a bunch of fillers like these other companies. And it really is buyer beware. So yeah, I've heard a few people go, well, I can go to like you said, I could go to
Target.
Target. I could go to Rite Aid and
Yeah.
pick up some. But I actually do know some. They're not college kids anymore. They graduated. But back about 10 years ago or so, I knew some college students that decided to do a study on their own of the different things in vitamin C that was on the shelf. And so they went to every, like, Rite Aid, Walgreens, Walmart, Target, those kind of, and some supplement stores, just some more generic, supplement stores. And they bought all the vitamin C brands they could find. And then they tested to see how much vitamin C was
Yeah.
actually in it, right? So let's say they have
I
this.
think I know the results.
So there's some chewable vitamin C's. They didn't have gummies back then. They had some chewable vitamin C's. They had some tablets, and then they had some capsules. So sometimes it's powder, sometimes it's like a hard pressed, tablet. And what they found was that there was so let's say a tablet says it has 1,000 milligrams, so 1 gram of vitamin C, right? Ascorbic acid or whatever form they were saying the vitamin C was in. Most of the time, it's ascorbic acid derived from corn.
Ugh.
And so what they did was they picked apart each one in their lab at the college, and they discovered that there was not one brand that they could find that was over the counter that sold what they claimed had in it.
Yeah.
So if they said it was 1,000 milligrams a capsule, maybe it was only 200, right? There were some that were 100% filler, zero vitamin C could be found, and most of them had some vitamin C, but never was it accurate to the label. And this is a good thing and a bad thing. And I know that sounds weird when I say it, but here's the thing. It's a good thing that the industry is not regulated. Here's why. If the FDA actually took over, we would be in deep yogurt.
You'd never have anything.
We would never have supplements again.
Yeah.
And the FDA is constantly under pressure from big pharma to shut down supplements. Now, there are certain health concerns when someone like takes too much of an herb and they have a negative effect, and then all of a sudden now that herb is banned. Those are unfortunate. We don't want the supplement industry being regulated, because then big pharma will control the entire industry.
Yeah.
And then we won't have access to things that are actually healthy for us. I know that kind of sounds like I got a tinfoil hat on, and the thing is I have so much more information on this topic, and so I've been informed, and how it's been laid out is that what we need to do instead is we need to do our own due diligence. We still want it to be the wild, wild west, but we need to find companies that will put the money and the time in to ensuring the highest quality and stand behind the quality, and not be these fly-by-night companies that get big and then get sold to Nestle. I am so disappointed that companies like Pure Encapsulations were sold to Nestle. Like I can't trust them anymore. And I've seen this with like Garden of Life and other supplement companies where they used to have good products. They got sold to a big company, and now the quality is gone in the toilet.
Yeah.
So please don't ever get bought by a big company.
I'll tell you, being a little company it's a grind. I mean, I've been at this 12 years, 12-hour days, 7 days a week, for 12 years. And it's a grind. You eventually you run out of energy, because you think, why don't people understand this? Why can't, what am I doing wrong? And the trouble is, these big companies, they have all the distribution channels. They can get to the product to places where us little companies just can't go. So, I feel the empathy of other fellow entrepreneurs who have done their best to make sure they have a high quality product. But at one point, you just run out of steam, because it's not easy. I'll tell you, this has been a labor of love for me. I mean, I just thought, if I could stop one more person from getting cancer, I will have considered myself, I will die happy. But I'm 12 years in. I probably got another 12 years to go. And I do love still what I'm doing, but it's not easy. It's really, really hard to bring a high quality product consistently to the world. And I mean, I've seen pictures of other algae companies, with capsules, and they've got ground up rocks, like you said, filler.
Oh,
And and if there were ever a requirement of me to sort of get involved with a larger company, you can set standards of regulations.
yeah.
These things will not happen when you acquire the company. It's just not, or it's not, or or will file a lawsuit. And there are situations where that has happened, and the quality has been maintained, but. It's a hard road. You have to do this because you love it, and I do love it, but it is not easy. And you were talking about vitamin C, and just on that note, everyone thinks ascorbic acid is vitamin C, and I point out ascorbic acid is just one component. There's 200 components to vitamin C. Ascorbic acid is just one of 200. And yet all the supplement companies make their vitamin C out of ascorbic acid. And this is why they are so poorly absorbed, because your body is looking for the other 199 pieces in order for it to absorb it. I tell people it's like going to work with just your shoes on. You can't just take ascorbic acid and think that you're getting vitamin C, because it doesn't exist in nature like that. When you eat vitamin C from an orange or from broccoli, you get it from broccoli. There's more vitamin C, by the way, in broccoli than there is in oranges. It has all those other components. And this is one of the many reasons why algae is so far better for you than supplements, because supplements are made from extracts, and extracts do not exist in nature. And so when your body is trying to figure out what to do with it, it kind of gives up at some point, and you only absorb about 10% of it. There are some exceptions, because there are a handful of really high quality supplements companies who are making their supplements from food, but it's a very rare situation. And that's why I'm so proud that algae is food, and why I really take great lengths to help people understand that it is food. And it's unprocessed food. We do not use high heat to dry our algae like everybody else does, because as soon as you use high heat, not only do you kill the enzymes, you change the chemical structure of the nutrients. So they aren't as powerful, and they're a little more difficult to absorb. So there's lots of less expensive algae tablets on the internet or on Amazon, but and lots of times we have people saying, "Oh, I'm going to go try another brand." They always come back because they say, "Well, I didn't get the energy that I had from yours," or it just didn't seem to make a difference. We have mothers with whose kids are ADHD, and I've been reading statistics that within the next 10 years, 1 out of 2 children are going to be on the spectrum. I mean, it's just insane what's going on in our world these days. And algae literally is the answer for almost everything. And we'll get into some of those details in a minute. But we do go to great lengths. These lab tests are not cheap. They're like $15,000 or $20,000, and they will only test what we tell them to do. And so I've got a long shopping list of things. Every time we do tests, we do more tests, and we will provide those. They're very long and lengthy, complicated lab tests, and we get labs from our suppliers in Taiwan, but we do a full set here in the United States. I think we're the only company that I'm aware of that does that, because we sell through doctors' offices, chiropractors, functional medicine. And they need to know for sure that the algae it has in it what we say it has, as you said. And we put we are only allowed to put a nutritional chart on our products that match the labeling requirements of the FDA. They don't allow us to put all the nutrients. I mean, how crazy is that? So we have the nutritional chart that's found on all of our packaging, but then we have a QR code that you can scan that gives you everything, because we're not allowed to put everything on. I mean, to me, that's insane, right? And we often get people saying, "Why does your nutrition chart on your website or the QR code not match the nutrition chart?" And this is why, because we are just not allowed to put everything on there according to the FDA regulations. The FDA labeling is so stringent that if you have a line between the different nutrients that's like a 1/16 of a millimeter thicker than what they tell you it should be, they will not allow you to sell. I mean, it's crazy. The regulations are so strict on the labeling. So anyways, just want to throw that out there.
It's just silly. It's not.
Doesn't
I
really
mean,
help.
it's like on one hand I can see how they want to help, but on the other hand I see how they're definitely not helping. I I mean I've heard of I think everyone I think my listeners are sort of really well educated, or at least they're more into the health space than the standard American populace, the people who are asleep and just going with the flow, right? And I say this on the show often, that we need to be like a salmon swimming upstream. We need to be the black sheep. We need to go against the flow of the world if we want to not be a statistic. So
Exactly.
look at the statistics out there. 1 in 3 people are diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. What That's insane. That is so sad. My mom died of cancer, and I've made it my life's mission as with this podcast to help save other people's moms, so that if we can help some people not lose their family members to cancer. And my dad died of heart disease, and those are the two big ones, right? The two big
Right.
killers. And but he died 6 years later, and he really died of a broken heart, of losing the love of his life. She died at
Yeah.
55, and
Wow.
she was the healthiest woman I knew. And then just very, very quickly died of cancer. And I mean, that's a whole episode in and of itself to get into. I can see now what the lifestyle that leads to that. And so
Yeah.
this is why I teach. This is why I guests like you, and we teach how we can prevent this, right? So
It's
if you
absolutely preventable. Absolutely.
it is, but if you go with the flow and you eat the way everyone else eats, and you think the way everyone else thinks, and you just do what everyone else does, then you will be a statistic. 1 in 3 people have type 2 diabetes or are pre-diabetic. Um, 70% of the adult population in the United States is on at least one prescription medication. So that's pain meds, high blood pressure meds, antidepressants, the list goes on. These This is a result of the body being out of balance, right?
Yeah.
When we look at the body from a holistic standpoint, which is a different lens than the mainstream. So for the listener who was brought up, like we all were, under the lens of the mainstream, you wait to get sick and then you go to the doctor. The doctor gives you something that manages your symptoms, and you shop down the aisles of the grocery store buying the junky, cereal that has dye and has sugar as the first or second ingredient, right? And you just go with the flow. You get your annual flu shot, you take antibiotics the second you have a sore throat or whatever, just like whatever people are doing out there. They eat mostly food that is processed, that a factory made, that was made in a factory, or out to restaurants, eat fried food. Don't really ever see just whole foods, meaning this is a vegetable. Look, there's a vegetable with nothing on it, not adulterated in any way. That is the standard American lifestyle that is en encapsulated most of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a result, we can see even in, for example, they have studies, just incredible studies, where they see the descendants of, because we think how much of this is genetic, right? Well, when we look at heart disease, anything below the Mason-Dixon line is incredible. There's just super high rates of diabetes and heart disease and arterial sclerosis, especially in African American males, and they die much younger than their white male counterparts. And we're like, what's going on? Is this genetic? Well, we look at the cultural diet in that area, and then we look at their cousins that, not genetically any different in Africa, eating a different diet,
Right.
completely different outcomes. The heart disease is not there. We look at, so it's the diet is what I'm saying,
Yeah.
not the genes. Then
No.
we look at Japan and Okinawa and how they had the lowest, very, very, very low rates of disease, incredibly long lifespans. It's very typical to live to 90 to or 100, or even past a little bit past 100, disease-free, still gardening out in the garden. Now the McDonald's and American lifestyle and processed food has become more glamorous in that area. And in one generation, cardiologists saw a shift. And now Japan is catching up with America in terms of cancer and heart disease is catching up. It's not there yet 100%, but it is definitely not where it was 50 to 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So so we have to, if we do not want to live the last 30 years of our life suffering in disease, and if you've watched your grandparents or your parents go through it, or great aunts and uncles, if you've watched anyone suffer in the later years of their life, it should be the biggest motivator for you to
Right.
pick up that fork and eat that salad
Exactly. I
instead
know.
of drive
Yeah.
through the drive through.
Yeah.
um so
I was just going to say, if you don't like salad, algae is your answer because,
yeah.
if I'm telling, if you have men and children in particular are well known for not wanting to eat vegetables, and I'm here to tell you, you don't need to eat another vegetable in your life as long as you take at least 10 algae tablets a day and just swallow them and you're done. But we can get to that, later on.
Well, I believe in the power of eating a variety of whole foods. I
Yes.
love that. But if you can't get it in them, I know my son is super picky, and I've figured out sneaky ways, and he'll eat some vegetables. He only wants to eat raw vegetables, which is it can be a challenge sometimes, but he only wants raw. There's only a certain kind he wants. So anyways, him and I think he eats more vegetables than any other kid I know, but I'm still not satisfied because I want him to be more flexible. But he's 7 and this is what kids do. But I love that he will any day of the week pick up your chlorella or spirulina and chew them up and swallow. So it's just very,
Yeah.
very it's so reassuring to me that a neurotic mom such as myself, who is so deeply concerned with the health of my child and wants to make sure that he has the best nutrition possible, that at the end of the day I could give him some spirulina and even some chlorella, and that he's getting that nutrition. But back to my point is that we need to be the salmon. We have to. I know it's a little exhausting to go against the grain, but we need to be the ones to figure out how to do home cooked meals. And I'm right there with you, figuring it out and doing it. Home cooked meals, eating healthy food, walking every day, even just to reduce stress. Go get in nature, go walk through a park, walking every day, doing deep breathing, bringing down your stress levels, getting nutrition, getting the super duper food like spirulina in you.
Yeah.
And all these daily activities will make it so that you are a divergent from the mainstream, the status quo, from the 1/3 of the population being incredibly, incredibly sick. You will diverge from those statistics, and you will be the outlier with true health. And
Yeah.
that's what I want for you. So yeah, it does take time and energy every day, but you have to make choices different from the masses. And sometimes that looks like grabbing your bag of energy bits and throwing it in your purse or your gym bag or the car. That's a great place, as long as the car's not too hot, but that's a great place to always have it. Because you know how you're like hungry or hangry in the car, instead of the drive-through, grab 15 energy bits and chew them. For me, I chew them and drink some water while you do it, or just swallow them if you don't want to chew them. And you're within minutes, your body is digesting and
Yeah.
absorbing that nutrition, and you really don't feel hungry anymore. I love it how it stops the hunger, and it gets me to the point where now I can like wait until after I've cooked dinner. But instead of reaching for something unhealthy or even spending money, I don't want to spend money out. I want to go home. I got groceries at home. I know that I'm giving my body nutrition,
Yeah.
and so it is a really great snack. But
It's really your lifeline. It's a nutritional
mm,
lifeline. I have a couple of I call it also your nutrition insurance. People know about health insurance. Well, this is your nutrition insurance, because if you take these every day, and if I do my job right, everybody in the world will be taking them every day, then your body is nourished in a way that will allow you to not just survive, but to thrive. The sad thing is, most people know more about their cell phones than they do about their bodies. And once you understand what your body needs and the way that it operates, and we'll get to that once we get to the mitochondria discussion, now you start to understand what it needs. It's easier for you to give it what it needs, because now you know the rules of the road. If you don't know how to read a map and you're driving to a distant location, you're kind of out of luck. You have to teach yourself how to read a map. And then it's easy. You just follow the road. So once you have a roadmap of how your body works, the algae makes that journey effortless because it gives you what you need, gets you where you want to go. You may take the spirulina because you want it for energy, but you're going to find out that your digestion improves, or maybe you'll take it because you want improved mitochondria health, but you'll find out your skin improves. Maybe you'll take it the chlorella because you want to pull out toxins, but you'll find out that you're sleeping better at night. So it will take you wherever you want to go, and then there'll be some bonus trips along there as well.
Love it. Now, I
Yeah.
first discovered, I mean, I'd heard of it, but I hadn't really like gone and tried algae until about I want to say about 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I interviewed Dr. Klinghart,
Oh, right.
he's local to me, which is crazy because people fly from around the world to see this man. He's been an MD, a holistic MD for over 45 years, I believe now. And he has designed a system that detoxifies the body so well that he takes children who are nonverbal and who have been, and I think, misdiagnosed on the spectrum. I think a lot of this is my hypothesis. I hypothesize that most autism is misdiagnosed heavy metals in the brain.
Mhm.
And that hypothesis is based on my observations of several holistic doctors that are able to take these children who have been diagnosed extensively, and they're nonverbal, they're agitated, they're not making eye contact, they're beating their head against a wall, or they're beating their hands against their head, they're rocking. They look like their brain is on fire and they're trying to soothe themselves. And they also have digestive issues. There's a lot going on. And Dr. Klinghart takes them and does a very gentle but rigorous heavy metal detox. And he can get these children to the point where they're happy, calm, making eye contact, talking, going to school. And he says he has had children now. One of them has graduated, become a composer. Several have become PhDs. They're essentially no longer considered on the spectrum. And the biggest thing is heavy metal detox. And he explains that the heavy metals are in the brain for whatever reason. Their bodies didn't detoxify like others do, and this is how it shows up. So
I agree that it's a lot of it is heavy metals, but it's also, and when we get to the mitochondria, it's also mitochondria
mm,
dysfunction because the
right.
highest concentration, excuse me, of mitochondria is in the brain. There are 2
Ah,
million 2 million mitochondria per cell in your brain. It's the highest
whoa.
concentration of mitochondria in your entire body. But, I don't want to jump the gun. We'll get to that in a few minutes.
So exciting. He uses chlorella as part of his package, as part of his
Yeah.
detox package
Yeah.
with these children and with adults, because adults will come to him sort of, unfortunately, he attracts people who this is their last ditch
Right.
effort. They've tried every single doctor, every single method in their country, because people fly from around the world to see him, and they're so sick of suffering. They've probably been suffering for 7 or more years. And then they come to see him, and yes, it's expensive because he does a lot with them. And at the end of the day, people get better. And mostly he's doing detox with them. So he's doing sauna, he's doing the platinum energy system, foot
Red light.
detox.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, he's doing all that, and he's using the chlorella as
Yeah.
part of the pulling out the heavy metals. So I remember listening because I was having heavy metal issues. I learned from him in my interview with him. I did my research. I got a platinum energy system foot detox machine. I got a sauna, and I was eating your chlorella.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'd throw 30 in my mouth, chew them and drink water, and then go jump in the sauna. And when I take it, it like mops up the heavy metals, and I don't have I don't know. Some people are really sensitive, like I am, to detoxing, and they get like that kind of flu
Yeah.
sensation from detoxing.
Yeah.
And chlorella mops it up, so I don't have that,
Yeah.
which is really exciting. So I know the next thing we were going to talk about was chlorella,
It's
but I wanted to
chlorella, so
say
this is a great segue.
that was my introduction, and then
Yeah.
I found you. I can't remember if I found you or you found me, but I tried the company that Dr. Arthur Klinghart likes, and they're a high quality company. And I honestly, I couldn't even get through a whole bag. I felt bad because I bought, their bags are maybe like $140. and I couldn't even get the whole bag because it just smells like dead fish. And I'm like, this is so gross. And then when I tried yours, because I actually, I think I remember you sent me a sample pack, and I'm like, this is amazing. I think you were experimenting with like macadamia nuts because there was like a bag with like, it was like a trail mix. And I'm like, this is delicious. This doesn't
Yeah.
smell weird and fishy. This tastes good to me. I like healthy tasting things, but yours is totally different from the other like high quality company that I had tried from Dr. Klinghardt. And I said, man, I don't know what it is with the Klinghardt one, but yours is way better. And I was getting great results. So then I started like singing energy bits from the rooftops and giving them out to all my friends. And I couldn't believe our little toddler at the time was loving them, and now he's 7 and will eat them. And even though he's very picky, so yeah, it's
I
exciting.
remember that was when he was about 2, so we've been
Yeah.
connected for almost 5 years. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
I
really
know. It's
great.
time just flies, right? It's just crazy.
Oh,
I'll be
man.
serving energy bits at his wedding.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. We have to sort of airdrop them from the sky. Instead of confetti, we'll have
Yeah,
recovery bits.
love
But
it.
well, that's a nice testimonial. And we will talk now about chlorella. And the great thing about chlorella is that it does taste pretty good, especially as you've mentioned. If you have it with pistachio nuts or macadamia nuts are the best. When you have,
Mhm.
when we call our chlorella, it's really a wellness algae. Spirulina is an energizing, nourishing algae. Chlorella, we call ours recovery bits because it helps you recover your health. And so when you mix it with macadamia nuts, honestly, you close your eyes, you think you're eating potato chips. It's that delicious.
Mhm.
So if we can get people, and I still do plan to do a trail mix with chlorella and macadamia nuts, and also we're working a lot now with pistachios, and there's a brand that has a salt and vinegar flavor, and it is, again, ultra delicious. Not only are these very good nuts for you, they're very soft, so they're good for your teeth. They're very low in lectins, so they're really good for your gut biome. Dr. Gundry points out that a
Mhm.
lot of nuts like almonds are very high in lectins and oxalates, and they can be
Mm.
very damaging to your stomach lining. And these two nuts are very low in both the lectins and oxalates. So I'm very happy that they're the two that we've settled on for our trail mix when we finally get that out there.
Nice.
Um, so chlorella showed up on the earth a billion years after spirulina, and as I mentioned, it is a green algae, and it does belong to the plant kingdom, and so it has fiber in its a fibrous cellulose wall. Now, remember I said spirulina's claim to fame, it had the highest protein in the world. Chlorella's claim to fame is it has the highest chlorophyll in the world. Now,
Mm.
chlorophyll is very, very cleansing and healing. If you go online, if this was a visual, I would have shown you a picture, but you can go online to see this, and we'll send you a bunch of articles that you can link to in the notes. But the chemical composition of chlorophyll is virtually identical to the chemical composition of your hemoglobin, your red blood cells. Now, this is important because chlorophyll builds your blood. It's that simple. And so when you have healthy blood, you're going to have healthy organs. You're going to have a healthier body, a healthier brain. So it's very, very cleansing. They up until World War II, and even as recent as World War II, they would give the injured liquid chlorophyll because it would help them heal from injuries if they'd run out of blood transfusions.
Wow.
For this very reason. So, and it's been used for centuries this way. It's only since the pharmaceutical industry's got us and kind of their hands around us that people have forgotten about the cleansing, blood building capabilities of chlorophyll. And there is nothing with more chlorophyll than chlorella algae. It has 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula and 25 times more chlorophyll than liquid chlorophyll. Nothing in the world has more chlorophyll than chlorella algae. You could fill a room with arugula, and you wouldn't even come close to the same amount of chlorophyll as in 30 tablets of chlorella. So that's pretty cool. Now, the other amazing thing about chlorophyll of course, as you know, chlorophyll is what makes plants green, is that chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment. The blue that's in the spirulina, which is called phycocyanin, it is a water-based pigment. Now, this explains to me why the blue pigment in spirulina stops the growth of blood vessels to tumors. It's called anti-angiogenesis, which in its own right is very important to know about. But the chlorophyll, because it's fat-based, what it does is it heals your cell walls. Now, we will get to eventually to mitochondria, but all of your health issues start at the cellular level. Everything, whether you're healthy or unhealthy. And it's not just the mitochondria inside the cell, it's the cell wall itself. Now, we've all been told we need things like omega-3 and D3 and vitamin A because those are fats. Your cell walls are fat-based. They're called lipids. And you need to keep them nourished and moist because that's how nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. And if they are not healthy with healthy fats, we're not talking about the rancid, awful, poisonous, toxic, damaging omega-6s like canola oil. Please, if you do nothing else, stop eating canola oil. It is so, it should have crossbones on it. That and sugar are the two things that are making people ill, diabetic, heart disease. And we can go on, that's another podcast in its own way. Anyways, so chlorophyll is just as healing to your cell wall as omega-3 because it's a fat-based pigment. So, and I don't take fish oil, and I would encourage everybody not to because it goes rancid after you, even before you buy it. And by the way, I remind people, where do you think the fish get the omega-3 from? Because of course the fish oil has omega-3 in it. They get it from algae. So I remind people to save themselves, save the oceans, save their health, save their cell walls, and get the healthy fats from algae, especially spirulina. It has the higher omega-3 in it. But the chlorophyll is fat-based. So even if you don't take fish oil, or even if you don't take D3, you are still getting the benefits of growing and building your cell walls from the chlorophyll. So not only is chlorella the highest chlorophyll, and we now know it builds your blood and it builds your cell walls, chlorophyll is also very cleansing, and chlorella has a hard cell wall. Now, that hard cell wall not only has fiber, remember spirulina has no fiber because it's a bacteria, chlorella has the fiber, so it feeds the bacteria in your gut biome. And that hard cell wall attaches to toxins, as you talked about earlier with Dr. Klinghardt. It attaches to all heavy metals, lead, mercury, radiation, aluminum, toxins from mold. It also attaches to alcohol, lactic acid, and it will chelate them out of your body. This is very, very, very powerful. I read a statistic a couple of years ago that said the average American has 800 toxins in their bodies. 800. That's crazy. Our immune systems were not built to sustain that kind of toxic load. And even if you lived in a bubble, and even if you had no exposure to any toxins, which of course we know is impossible, you need to know that our bodies, the good news is our bodies are constantly regenerating on a daily basis. Every single second, cells die and cells grow. Now, we have 30 trillion cells in our body, and literally every day, cells die, new cells grow. But where do you think those old cells go? Well, if you don't get rid of them by pulling them out like with something like chlorella, they sit there and they clog up your lymphatic system and they attract bacteria and they cause disease. So, and I remind people, if you didn't take your garbage out from your house for a couple of days, it would get pretty smelly in there, right? Well, your body is the same way. If you do not get rid of the dead cells, they're called sentient cells, they're zombie cells, they're clogging up your body. This is why you do things like fasting to trigger autophagy, to get rid of all these dead cells that are either mutated or just dead and not gone. You need to pull them out. And chlorella is the best way to do it. In fact, I personally feel it's far better than activated charcoal, which a lot of people use. But activated charcoal pulls out all minerals, the good ones and the bad ones. Chlorella only pulls out toxins, and it has 40 vitamins and minerals, as does spirulina. So it introduces all the electrolytes, magnesium, potassium, manganese, and salt, so that you don't lose your minerals. It just pulls out the toxins. That's the big difference between activated charcoal and using chlorella algae. So with chlorella, because your body goes through a detox and repair cycle when you are sleeping, we generally recommend people take chlorella before bed. Now, you can take it any time of day. I eat them all day long. I have them for breakfast, lunch, snacks. I eat them with pistachio nuts, macadamia nuts. But I definitely have them before bed. But you could have them any time of day. But if you were only going to take them one time a day, I would recommend before bed, because now when you're getting your beauty rest and you're getting your deep repair, you have chlorella, which will facilitate sleep, because it has both algae have the highest concentration of melatonin in the world. So it helps you sleep, and no, melatonin does not make you sleepy during the day. It's only triggered by night. We'll talk about melatonin more in a minute when we talk about mitochondria. It has the highest tryptophan in the world, which is a precursor to melatonin. It has your daily requirement of vitamin K2, which pulls out excess calcium from soft tissue. This would have been very valuable for your father. Arteriosclerosis, which is the hardening of arteries. I remind people, you know what's hardening? It's calcium. We're all taking D3 and we're taking calcium, but it's going into our soft tissue. It is not going to our bones, because most of us are deficit in vitamin K2, which moves excess calcium from our soft tissue, like our blood vessels and our heart, and our skin and our brain, and moves it into your bones. And chlorella has your daily requirement of K2, so it automatically does that. You know, kidney stones, you know what they are? It's calcification gathering with uric acid. So all of these things, the high chlorophyll, which stimulates peristalsis, is all highest RNA and DNA in the world. All of these things contribute to a great repair while you are getting your beauty rest. Chlorella, because your body goes through this detox and repair, and because chlorella has all the nutrients that facilitate the repair, we definitely recommend taking it before bed. And so you can just leave it at your bedside and have it as your snack before you go to, off to your la-la land, and you'll wake up refreshed. If you've had a cocktail or a glass of wine, same thing happens. Now, in terms of quantity, just like we said with spirulina, 10 tablets will give you 10 tablets of spirulina will give you a slight improvement in your energy and your focus and satisfy your hunger. If you wanted it as a meal replacement, you'd probably want 20 or 30 tablets. Same with chlorella. You could take 10 tablets and you'd enjoy all the wellness benefits from the chlorophyll and all the other nutrients. But for detox, you need closer to 20 or 30 tablets. And you'll find they're so tiny, and as you start to enjoy eating them, it's not a hardship. In fact, you'll probably start looking forward to having your chlorella, even if you put maybe a little bit of sea salt on it. If you don't want nuts, it can be your bedtime snack, much better for you than cookies and milk. So, and if you don't want to take that many all of the time, you can do maybe 10 tablets for a week, and then 20 or 30 for a couple of weeks, and then get back to 10 at night, or do 20 or 30 for a month, and then do it 10 tablets for a month, and then so you can cycle in and out, just like people cycle in and out of doing keto. So the chlorella, we call it recovery bits because it's very much a recovery algae that has so many benefits that it's there's nothing like it. And remember, it's food. It's not a pill. It's not a vitamin. It's not a supplement. Now, when you take chlorella on a daily basis, and we would certainly recommend you do, if you don't like vegetables, or you don't have time to eat vegetables, or you're traveling, or you want a faster recovery from sports, this is your answer. You just, swallow 10 or 20 or whatever many you have, or chew them, and you're done. No carrying groceries from the heavy vegetables from the grocery store, stuffing them into your fridge, cleaning them, cooking them, arguing with your kids or your husbands, and then throwing half of them out. None of that. It just goes away. And we sell the tablets in bags of 1,000 tablets, and I used the quote from NASA that said 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits and vegetables. And I did the math, and I realized one bag of our algae tablets, doesn't matter which one it is, has the same nutrition as 551 pounds of vegetables.
Oh my gosh.
And at $3 a pound, that's like $1,500. So at 100, normally the bag is $125. With your discount code LTH, it brings it down to $100. And if you took 10 a day, the bag would last you about 3 months. That's efficient nutrition, right? It not only saves you money, it saves you time, and it saves you arguing. And now you've got something when you're traveling or going to the gym or going to school, or you're a soccer mom and you're stuck in traffic and you don't want to eat any of those crappy carbs. Here you go. You've just nailed it. I call it the ultimate fast food.
Well, I certainly enjoy the idea that it is such a, like you said, super duper superfood. I wouldn't say don't eat any vegetables or fruit, but like you said, if someone can't, like, and there's actually there's a listener who has a, I don't know if they call it a nursing home or like a skilled nursing home where they host elderly people in their own home. They've got like 10 rooms and they take care of them and they feed them the energy bits. And how amazing is that? Because they want their clients to be healthy. And for some, there's certain people who you can't feed enough fruits and vegetables to, right?
Yeah.
And so it can be children, seniors, busy when we're super, super busy, when we're traveling. I know there's days where I'm traveling and I'm hungry and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna skip a meal. I'm gonna fast, or I can take my energy bits. I'd rather do that than go through a drive-through for multiple reasons.
Exactly.
And
And I'm with you. I'm not, because I love vegetables, but
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, especially as they get older, they don't have the enzymes for digesting fiber. And so they avoid fiber, which means they avoid nutrition. And white, mushy stuff just doesn't have any nutrition in it. So for those people, or if you're, we work with a lot of bariatric surgeons, and their patients have such small stomachs, they cannot physically put a lot of food in their stomach. So they love the algae tablets because they're so tiny, and yet they're so tiny but mighty is what I say. They give them all the nutrition that they need. Or children who are just, let's face it, kids love pasta, but again, not a lot of nutrition in pasta. We don't want parents to have to worry. And if you turn the tablets into a bit of a game like you did with your son, they think it's fun. Their tongues turn green, and now you've turned eating healthy into something pleasurable. So whatever it takes to get and for older people who don't eat very well, even if they took 2 tablets, it's probably more nutrition than they're having all week. So we just want to help people get the nourishment that they need.
Now, you mentioned earlier that, I know it's going back to spirulina, but you mentioned earlier how you've discovered that it has the same, like a really similar nutrient profile to mother's breast milk. Have you ever thought about formulating a baby formula?
Oh, I mean, there's no end to the things that we can do, but we're still such a tiny company. We're so understaffed and we're so underfunded. We're self-funded. The number of things that we could do is limitless. But I have to help people first understand what algae is, because those are all very vertical, what's called vertical markets. And, there's hypersensitivity with mothers and with children and formulas, and the food companies have a stranglehold on that. And I couldn't even attempt to get to that community until we'd established algae as the nutritional.
It's safe, it's nutritious, I mean, there's so many benefits. And we have 4 other episodes that listeners can go to, and we actually talk about, well, what are the downsides, right? Are there downsides? And we talked about debunking the algae myths, and you bring up a lot of science. It's episode 357. That was a fantastic interview. I highly recommend listeners who've been listening so far and going, okay, well, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They're like, what's the downside to eating this? There's got to be a hook. There's got to be a side effect, right? We're used to that. We're used to the side effect mindset because everyone's used to drugs. This is a food. You don't go, what's the downside to eating an apple? I mean, I don't know, maybe you're full. I don't know, like what's the right. Well, and the thing is, a conventionally grown apple has upwards of 50 different man-made
Pesticides.
chemicals on
Yeah.
it and in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So that's just why we choose organic, and that's why your spirulina and chlorella are essentially organic. They're very clean. There's no those pesticides and those chemicals in it. But we
Yeah.
do talk about addressing those concerns in episode 357. So recommend listeners go back
Yeah.
and check that
Yeah.
out. I definitely want to make sure that we do get
Cover
into
mitochondria.
the
Yeah.
mitochondria.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to say is before we move forward, with the amount of chlorophyll is like a deodorant for the insides.
Right.
Your poop does not smell when you do chlorella. So if your husband has particularly horrible bowel movements or farts, give him the recovery bits and
Yep.
notice it's like a deodorant for the inside. It's helping him detox, and it's also saving your marriage and saving your
Yeah. Right.
nose.
Right.
That's
Well,
one thing.
and same with people who are they're eating just meat. What's it called?
Oh, the carnivore diet.
Carnivores, because I ran into some at this keto conference I was at last weekend. Their breath was just about
Oh,
knocked you over. This will get rid of breath issues. Say that same with dogs
mm.
and cats. So you maybe not so you might not
Ooh.
notice it with your cats, but with dogs. So anybody who's eating meat, the bad breath is from bacteria in your mouth. This kills bacteria. Remember I said algae
Yeah.
blooms show up wherever there's bacteria. Same within your mouth, same within your colon. That's why they've used chlorella for decades for IBS, Crohn's disease, any kind of gut, abdominal issues at all. And I laughingly, when I was at this conference, I held up a bag of my energy bits on my head, and I put my chlorella bag down by my gut. And I said, if the blue one, energy bits, is for AM, and the chlorella, which is the green bag, is for PM. But if you need another visual, think of the energy bits, which is spirulina with all the nourishment for your brain, and the chlorella, which cleans out your gut and stops, any kind of bacteria and deodorizes your lower part of your body. So
Mm-hmm.
your brain and your gut. That's how they. If you need simple things to remember what they do and when to take them, that hopefully helps.
I do. I love it. I love it. Yes. And you mentioned that it's better than activated charcoal. Would you consider taking the recovery bits when someone has food poisoning? Would it help in that way as well?
That's a good question. I don't know about food poisoning because I don't. I guess there's bacteria that's caused the food poisoning, like salmonella.
But it's like the toxins left behind from the bacteria is what I
Yeah,
understand. I'm
yeah,
just wondering because people will typically take activated charcoal during food poisoning to help mop it up, and I'm
yeah,
wondering if, well, I guess you could take activated charcoal and chlorella,
yeah.
um, just to see if it would help more. But
Would certainly be cleansing. I've never had that question come up before. That's very
cool,
interesting. I can only think that would help.
there you go. There you go. Okay. So we've laid down a good groundwork, although listeners can still go back and listen to the previous episodes because we really, really dove in deep, even deeper. But we've laid it out. Everyone now is excited and probably going to energybits.com using coupon code LTH and already buying their bags of recovery bits and energy bits. And then one thing I wanted you to mention is if someone wants to try both chlorella and spirulina, they can get the 50-50 bag. And what's that bag called?
That's called Vitality Bits.
That's right,
Yeah.
Vitality Bits.
Yeah, it's a
So
blend
if
of the two of them. Yeah.
you want half chlorella, half spirulina, get the Vitality Bits. Okay, so let's dive into this. The superoxide dismutase, the SOD, I am so excited about. I've had guests come on the show talking about how it is like the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
We need more of it. And I'm so excited that your crop, your super duper food, is gonna help us get
Yeah.
more superoxide dismutase for our mitochondria. Okay, so
Yes.
let's dive into this.
All right. Well, let me first explain what mitochondria are, why they're so critical for your life, full stop, and why algae contains all of the nutrients that will protect your mitochondria from damage. And when the mitochondria are protected, then you have more life. So, and one of those antioxidants is superoxide dismutase. It's also known as SOD. So I'll use the terms interchangeably because it's easier to say SOD than superoxide dismutase. So here's the deal. Think of your body as a building, okay, like a skyscraper. And inside the building are offices. And think of those offices like your cells. And in the offices are lights. Think of the lights as your mitochondria. Now, you can't do any work in your office without lights. And your building doesn't function without offices and people in the offices. Your body is the same way. The mitochondria are the fuel, the thing that keeps the lights on in your cells. And the problem is those mitochondria are getting damaged. The mitochondria are known as they're little organelles. If you look at any drawings, they're sort of like peanut-shaped things that are inside the cells. And they generate energy for everything in your body. Everything from breathing, and the currency of energy is called ATP. We have electricity that is the energy for our homes or our phones, and we have gasoline for the energy for our cars, although soon to be electricity. ATP is what energizes your body. It's what helps your blood to flow, your lymphatic system to function, your heart to beat, your brain to think. It fuels everything. So your mitochondria play a pretty important role. Just like in the building, without any lights, you can't really do anything. The trouble is your mitochondria are located exactly where actually your mitochondria have their own DNA. I'll say that first. We know that we have about 25,000 DNA, and those DNA last a lifetime. The mitochondria have their own DNA. And interestingly, they all come from the female, which is quite different from your regular DNA. Half comes from the male, half comes from the female. All of your mitochondria DNA come from the female. I just thought it was sort of an interesting note to put in there. Now, there's only 37 of them, but these mitochondria DNA control all of your other DNA. They control all of the communication on your cell wall. They control everything that goes on in your body. So the analogy I like to help people so you can understand how powerful these mitochondria DNA are. They're like the air controller at an airport. An air controller controls absolutely everything that's coming in and going out. And if they are ill or not on their job, planes crash. When your mitochondria DNA are ill and they get damaged, your health crashes. It is that simple. Now, the good news is we can change that trajectory because as you age, you have fewer mitochondria, you have more mitochondria being damaged and mutated, and these mutated mitochondria send the wrong signals. It's like an air controller telling a plane to land on a runway when someone's taken off. So when the mitochondria are damaged, they're sending wrong signals, and so your tissue starts to literally rust. That's what free radicals do, and your health deteriorates. Now, the reason why the mitochondria get so damaged and mutated is because the mitochondrial DNA, they are located exactly where the ATP is produced. Now, the ATP is good. The problem is when ATP is produced, a byproduct is something called free radicals. Free radicals are molecules that are missing an electron. And so what they do is they steal electrons from other tissues, from other molecules. It basically is the equivalent of rust. And if you think you've ever seen boats on a dock or an old car left on a yard, you see how there's rusty holes that appear and they get bigger and bigger because of oxidation. That's what's causing the holes, is oxidation. Free radicals cause oxidation, damage, rusting of your cells. Not a good thing. So because the mitochondrial DNA are located exactly where the ATP is and exactly where the free radicals are, they are constantly getting damaged and dying. The average lifespan of your mitochondrial DNA is 10 to 20 days, whereas your regular DNA lasts a lifetime. So Now, normally, between when you're born and when you are about 30, your body creates antioxidants that can get into the mitochondria to stop this free radical damage. But the problem is that there's only 4 of them that can get into this mitochondria inner membrane. They are glutathione, melatonin, superoxide dismutase, and also chlorophyll. I know your body doesn't make chlorophyll, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So those are the only 4 antioxidants that can stop the free radical damage. And you go, well, wait a second. Blueberries have antioxidants. Oranges have antioxidants. What's wrong with them? Here's the problem. Those antioxidants are fine for all the other cells in your body to stop free radical damage. But the problem is your mitochondria, unlike any other cell in your entire body, have 2 cell membranes. Every other cell has one. Remember we talked about it earlier, and they're a fat-based, it's a fat-based membrane, and nutrients go in and go out. Well, there's one of those around the mitochondria for sure, but there is a second inner membrane that is impenetrable by virtually anything, certainly none of the traditional antioxidants, and I'll explain in a minute why. In your regular membranes, including the outside one of the mitochondria, these nutrients that get in and out, and proteins and antioxidants, they go through something called a porin, P-O-R-I-N. Now, porins are like little channels that open up and allow things to flow in and out. But that inner membrane of the mitochondria does not have any porins. The only 4 that can get through that inner membrane, and they're not through porins, are these 4 antioxidants: glutathione, melatonin, superoxide dismutase, and chlorophyll. Now, you mentioned superoxide dismutase, so let me start with it. It is heralded as the answer to longevity. And here's why. The most damaging free radical that is produced in your body, and it's all at the mitochondria level, is something called superoxide. And I was curious. I read all this literature, hundreds of NIH articles talking about the damaging of the super damage of superoxide. And I thought, well, what's so why is it so damaging? And here's why. Most free radicals have just one electron that is by itself, and so it steals one electron from another molecule, which damages that molecule, and which then becomes a free radical, which damages the next molecule, and that's how the cascading effect of damaged tissue occurs. But superoxide has 3 of these unpaired electrons, so it steals 3 times as many electrons from the next molecule, which causes 3 times as much damage to the next molecule. So that's why it's known as the most damaging free radical, because it requires 3 electrons to stabilize. So superoxide dismutase, what it does is it encounters this superoxide and turns it into water. Harmless water. Imagine a fireman with a hose, just hosing down all that superoxide dismutase and protecting your mitochondria. And the reason why this is so powerful is because, again, when you're talking about the free radicals being produced as a result of ATP, if anyone's ever sat by a bonfire or a fireplace and you got too close to it and sparks would fly, you know that those sparks could burn you. And that's what's happening at the mitochondria level with all this ATP. It's generating a fire, but the result are free radicals, which are like the sparks. And what's getting burned is the mitochondria DNA. And so you've got to find a way to protect the mitochondria DNA, because when they're damaged, then again, they die or they send the wrong signals. Now, the other 2 nutrients, antioxidants that can get into the mitochondria, as I mentioned, is melatonin and glutathione. And algae has the highest concentration of superoxide dismutase in the world, the highest concentration of glutathione in the world, and the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. All four are the four that can get into that inner membrane to stop this free radical damage. Now, there's two ways to stop the free radical damage. One is to reduce the number of free radicals being produced. And the second way is to neutralize them, like superoxide dismutase. The first way is easy for anybody to do because carbs and sugar generate the most free radicals in your mitochondria. So removing processed carbs, anything white, rice, bread, sugar, and replacing it either with a keto diet or at least a low carb diet, that's number one, because you're going to have fewer free radicals being produced that will then produce less damage. Now, the best way, the thing that produces virtually no free radicals, is fasting, either intermittent fasting or long-term water fasting, and algae. Algae creates virtually no free radicals because there are no carbs. And the remarkable thing about algae is a scientific discovery is that if you take chlorophyll and expose your body to red light, either red light therapy or the sunlight, the chlorophyll regenerates the CoQ10 molecule, which is part of the cycle of producing ATP, and it creates energy without free radicals. So now you're taking algae that's full of the 4 antioxidants that neutralize the free radicals, and it's giving you your body, your brain, your organs nourishment, and it's generating ATP without free radicals. So that's number one, reduce the number of free radicals that are damaging to the mitochondria DNA. And the second one, which is getting these 4 antioxidants that can neutralize them, like superoxide dismutase. Now, the catch is superoxide dismutase, as I mentioned, is an enzyme. And virtually all of the other algae companies that are lower priced, higher volume, they use high heat to dry their algae. Why? Because they have to get to market quickly, to sell quickly, to make money quickly. Now, when I started the company, as I mentioned, it was just to help my sister. And so 12 years ago, I learned that high heat kills enzymes. Now, I'll be honest, I knew nothing about superoxide dismutase 12 years ago, but I knew if you got over 118 degrees Fahrenheit, it killed enzymes. And I knew enzymes were important for digestion. So I said, well, we can't use high heat. We can't use high heat when we dry it. So we never have. So that's why when you use our algae, the superoxide dismutase, which has been heralded as the answer, and it's, by the way, there's 50,000 studies that have been done on the healing properties of superoxide dismutase. It has been proven to stop cancer, proven to stop heart disease, proven to stop brain disease. And 50,000 is a big number, just like there's 100,000 on algae. So now you've got something that's been proven to stop these diseases and reinstate health at the cellular level, and yet everybody else is killing it except us. There is one other source that you could use, I want to point out, and it would be frozen spirulina. Chlorella, by the way, does have superoxide dismutase in it as well, but spirulina has the highest, has like 4 times as much as chlorella. Now, frozen algae, because again has not been exposed to heat, high heat, would have all the superoxide dismutase still alive and well. Same with if there was such a thing as frozen chlorella. I've never found anybody that sells it. The problem with frozen spirulina is that it has a very short lifespan. It's messy. You can't travel with it. So it's even more expensive. So, but it is an option for those of you who do want to search that out. So superoxide dismutase is unbelievable for preserving your mitochondria. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the highest concentration of mitochondria are in the parts of your body where there are the highest energy needs. Number 1, your brain. They have found there are 2 million of these mitochondria per cell in your brain. That's why they're realizing autism, ADHD, dementia, Alzheimer's, any brain issue, brain fog is a mitochondria dysfunction. a mitochondrial disease. And we have people writing in who have had dementia, they're in their 70s, and within 2 days, they started being able to focus again. One gentleman said he couldn't even figure out how to turn his microwave on. And within 2 days of using the spirulina, he was being able to focus again. The power of these antioxidants cannot be understated. It is crucial that you get these into your body, because after the age of 30, your body, which normally makes superoxide dismutase, glutathione, and melatonin, drops and it drops and it drops. And by the time you are 60, and certainly in your older years, it is producing virtually none. This is why when you're 20, in your teens and you're 20, I mean, you have energy, you might get a cold, and you bounce back in 2 days. But once you get into your 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, you're not sleeping, you're not recovering, you're getting chronic illness, you're getting cancer diagnoses, heart disease diagnoses, your brain fog is increasing. It's because your mitochondria, which used to be protected when you were younger by these antioxidants, the 3 that your body makes plus chlorophyll, it is not producing them anymore. And I'm not telling you anything that's not scientifically proven. This is the reality. So as your mitochondria get damaged, and as you have fewer of these antioxidants to protect you, your inflammation level goes up and up and up, and your mitochondria and your health goes down and down and down. We can change that trajectory simply with algae. It's unfrigging believable. I have the lab tests that prove that algae is the highest superoxide dismutase in the world. There's a teeny amount in cabbage. It has 28,000 times more superoxide dismutase than cabbage. It has more melatonin. It has 1,400 times more glutathione than avocado or beef. It has, I can't remember the number, but some crazy number, more melatonin. And melatonin, they're realizing, does way more than help you with your sleep and manage your circadian rhythm. It's an antioxidant that, by the way, is produced in all of your mitochondria and used by all your mitochondria. These are essential antioxidants that preserve your mitochondria DNA, which therefore preserve your health. But I want to walk you through where the other concentrations of mitochondria are. First, as I mentioned, is your brain. The second highest, you'll never believe this one, is women's eggs. Wow. There are 600,000 mitochondria per cell in a woman's eggs, in every single egg. For infertility is a mitochondrial dysfunction. You get this back into your body, it will be so much easier for you to have a baby, carry the baby, nourish the baby, because it takes a lot. And why is there so many mitochondria in women's eggs? Because it takes a lot of energy to create another human being. The third highest is your heart. Once again, they're realizing heart disease is a mitochondria disease. It's anywhere between 5,000 to 7,000 mitochondria per cell in your heart. And after that, it's the rest of your organs and your muscles, which have an average of 5,000 mitochondria per cell. So any athletes who are listening, you want muscle for performance, but you need mitochondria for a long-lasting performance, because that's where your energy is coming from the mitochondria in your muscles. Now, just as a comparison, a fat cell or a skin cell has an average of only 100 mitochondria per cell, because there's not a high need for energy there. But the things that go first when we are aging is our brain and our heart, and of course our immune system as well. So the fact that the algae, both the spirulina and the chlorella, have the 4 antioxidants that can get into that inner membrane to stop the free radical damage that is like sparks flying off a fire and damaging the DNA, which is what causes the cascading effect of decreased energy, brain focus, cancer, immune health issues. Algae does provide that ability to protect the DNA and at the same time generate ATP without free radicals. Now I'm going to tell you why there are 2 membranes in the mitochondria, and why algae is such a remarkable thing, and basically saves your mitochondria. So remember at the very beginning, I mentioned that algae was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. And this is all documented in science, by the way, so we'll send you all the links so you can check it out yourself. So the first cell was a cyanobacteria, and it was an anaerobic cell, because before algae, there was no oxygen on Earth. There was just gas and water. No one knows why this little tiny anaerobic cell, a cyanobacteria, started growing. And of course, spirulina is a cyanobacteria. So it's effectively spirulina was the first life on Earth 4 billion years ago. And after 1 billion years of it growing, of these little cells growing, and they generated ATP and released oxygen in the process, which always happens, now there's a lot of oxygen on Earth. But now this little anaerobic cell is struggling because it did better when there wasn't any oxygen on Earth. And at the same time, larger cells that were aerobic started growing. But they weren't generating ATP as well. So I can imagine the conversation that went on between the two of them, because this is exactly what happened. The big cell says to the little cell, "Hey, little guy, I see you're struggling there with all that oxygen, and we love oxygen, but we're not doing so well generating ATP. So how about you come and join us, and we'll protect you from the oxygen, and you can generate ATP for us." And basically that's what happened. The big cell engulfed the little cell, but did not digest the little cell. That little cell, that little cyanobacteria, became mitochondria. Your mitochondria evolved from spirulina, well, from cyanobacteria, which spirulina is a cyanobacteria. Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is why there are two membranes on your mitochondria. The original membrane is when it was out by itself 4 billion years ago as an anaerobic cell. And then when it got engulfed by the big cell put a second membrane around it, as occurs in all of the cells in your body that have these porins that allow things to go in and out. But the original membrane was retained. And that is why algae has everything that can get into the mitochondria inner membrane, where nothing else can get in there, because it's the same thing. There are different processes that allow the absorption to get through the cells. Nothing else can get in there. Your mitochondria and spirulina are family.
It is so cool. I did a whole interview on mitochondria back in episode 297 with Dr. Warren Cargill. And I feel like I should connect the two of you,
Yeah.
because he published a book on mitochondria. He's all about mitochondria. He said exactly what you said, which is really cool. You know, it's cool to hear it from multiple sources, right?
Yeah.
And it'd be cool to hook you guys up. You guys, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna hook you guys up. You guys
What's
should-
his name again?
It's Warren Cargill, Dr. Warren Cargill, and anyways, that's episode 297. I'll make sure I hook you guys up. I've had other Dr. Jack Cruz has been on the show talking about mitochondrial health. He's a cardiologist that I'm pretty sure. I'm going by memory. No, maybe he's not a cardiologist. I think he's a cardiologist. You know, when you do 500 interviews.
Oh, I know. God bless you for even remembering.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I meet so many people. But when I
Right.
discovered that mitochondria evolved from a cyanobacteria,
It's just fascinating.
and it's called endosymbiosis is the scientific terminology that's used. And I tell people, it makes me sort of chuckle, because it reminds me of, let's say you had a friend who got kicked out of their apartment, and they come to you and they go, "Hey, can I come and stay with you for a few days?" And you go, "Okay, fine." And then they come and stay with you, and they do your laundry, they pick up your groceries, they pick up your dry cleaning, and you go, "Hey, this is working pretty good for me." So you tell your friend, "Hey, stay forever." So it's sort of what happened with the little single cell cyanobacteria that kind of took up shop with the bigger bacteria,
Right.
and instead of digesting it, the big bacteria said, "Hey, you're doing such a great job generating ATP for us. Why don't you just stay forever?"
Right.
But it flipped me out when I realized that we came from algae. And this endosymbiotic theory was discovered, by the way, in the 60s by a woman professor, a female professor, who was at MIT at the time. And she was ridiculed by her peers
Oh, I bet.
for almost 10 years until they realized she was right. So
Hmm.
any article that you read in the NIH library, the National Institute of Health library, on mitochondria, they all reference this thing. That's why I'm so comfortable telling you about this, because it starts to make complete sense. The mitochondria is where everything in your health starts and ends. Everything. You cannot get any further down the food chain, so to speak, in your health than mitochondria. And algae is, as you can't get any further down the food chain. It is the original life on Earth. It is the original ancestral paleo historic food. And here we are looking at all these, people getting sick and taking all these medications and, dramatic surgery. And the answer to all this for prevention and for maintenance and for excelling in health and vitality for you, the earth, and your children has been sitting in front of us for billions of years, but it's not sexy. It's not cool. No one's explained it to you.
I think it's sexy. I think like mushrooms and algae, I think it's incredibly sexy. So I have deep faith and I believe in God, and so many who study the Bible go, well, okay, but you're saying something that happened a billion years ago, but the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible's only, some people take it literally and say 5,000 years. And what's interesting about the as you transcribe the Bible, right? And we've sort of changed definitions of words as you transcribe it from one language to another. But in the Old Testament, the word day actually has been transcribed into a literal day, 24-hour around the sun, which, I mean, I think God can do anything. However, it was originally said, and remember also Bible stories were spoken before they were written for a
Right,
long
right.
time. It was the original language. And I'm open to being wrong about this, but this is after talking to like rabbis and ministers and priests and stuff like that, and having these wonderful theological discussions. Again, this is not something when it comes to theology, I don't take this stance where I'm infallible and I'm right, and like I'm open to being completely wrong, because I'm listening for God to show me what you want me to see. And so I think we should all have this open mind, like, show me, God, what is the truth? Show me what you
Right,
want me to see and what you want me
right.
to understand about my healing and about life and how I can help others and how I can be in service to you. And what they said is that the word day actually means event. On the first event, God made this. On the second event, and so it was not a literal 24 hours, which is really fascinating, because we've taken it as it's 24 hours. So if you think about, because I believe God made the universe, and the more you study science, it's actually really fascinating. Go look under a microscope, under a really, really intense microscope. Go look at a single cell organism, and when you see how complex a single cell organism is, it will move you to tears. It is so beautiful. There's more happening. If you study biology, there's more happening in a single cell than in New York City. There's
Yeah,
more,
yeah.
and there's more happening than in a city with millions of people and all their lives. It is so beautiful. And scientists have never discovered something created out of nothing. Right. And so anyways, this is just me. I'm not pushing my beliefs on anyone, but try on this concept that there's this beautiful higher power that loves you and created this whole universe. And this has been my philosophy since I was a kid, that God is the world's biggest scientist, that he's the world's coolest scientist. Right. Like, so he, created, and I say it's just God, right? It's just everything,
Right,
this beautiful universal energy, that there's something behind life. There's something
right.
after life, that there's something behind everything. There's a universal life force. There's more energy in us than there's matter. So you get into studying quantum physics, just study any of these sciences, and you just start to see God show up in these beautiful ways. At least he does for me.
Yeah,
And so
I completely agree.
and,
I totally agree.
and he gives us what we need. So it just makes so much sense that here he's given us the mitochondria, this beautiful relationship between this interesting bacteria-like object that then is now in our cells making energy for us. And that makes so much sense because now that we're just starting to crack open we're just starting to go down the rabbit hole. We're just starting to crack open that Pandora's box. A beautiful, I know Pandora maybe isn't the best reference, but this beautiful, deep rabbit hole of understanding how good bacteria plays a role in our health, right? And there's about 6 pounds of good bacteria in your gut that digest your food, that make neurochemicals for you. That your gut bacteria is making about 70% of your serotonin for your brain, and we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just makes so much sense that here we have chlorella and spirulina, these crops that God has given us, that, is here in nature. Nature's given us, that is healing and healthy for our body. Just like when you go into nature and you find a plant that's poisonous, you will always find the cure nearby. That there is a balance in a balanced ecosystem. Now, I wouldn't say like go into like a state park might not be a balanced ecosystem, or your city park, but in a balanced ecosystem, herbalists, when they go out and they wildcraft and forage, they will point out, they will say, here's the poison and here's the remedy. They're nearby. There's a balance in nature. And here we have this balance. And especially now when the world is more and more and more toxic, we need to go back and find what are the cures that are showing up? Like you said, it shows up in a beach when the beach is toxic to help mop it up. We need to bring this into our body and mop up all the damage we're doing from
Right.
living in a toxic world. I
Right.
absolutely love it. Now, you said it kills bacteria, but what does it do to the good bacteria?
Oh, well, it helps it multiply because it's a prebiotic, and so it supports the healthy bacteria and kills the bad bacteria. It's an adaptogen, so it can identify which team it wants to play with.
Right.
And speaking of teams, it's also keto, vegan, paleo, carnivore, no lectins. Algae is not technically a plant. It's not, and it's certainly not an animal. It will work with every lifestyle group. It has zero sugar, zero caffeine, one calorie per tablet, 40 vitamins and minerals, highest protein in the world, highest glutathione, melatonin, superoxidismutase in the world. It's just, and you just to go back to your, referencing God, two things. They now think that, in the passage where Jesus is feeding the masses manna from heaven, they now think it was algae because he was scraping stuff from the rocks, and now algae grows on rocks. And when you, if it's exposed to light, the chlorophyll is pulled out, but all the protein and the polysaccharides remain. So it's like a white, you'll see it on rocks, like this white crystals, stuff. That's algae, but it's still nourishing. You could live on algae forever. It's that nourishing, and so that's one little sort of thing I want to mention.
Oh, that's
and
beautiful.
also. Because algae is so healing, and because it is really truly a gift to us from God, from nature, from the universe, whatever you want to call it, anybody who is on a spiritual quest or wants to at least find themselves and get out of the crazy, world that we live in, you have to be quiet. You have to step back, listen to your own soul, listen to your own voice, because your soul and your spirit whisper. It never shouts. You know who shouts? People and companies that are trying to get your attention to sell you stuff. So I tell people, whoever's advertising the most on TV, run the other way, because they're loud and they're pushy. Your soul and your spirit is never loud or pushy. It will just whisper to you. And algae's been sitting around waiting for us to take notice of it. By the way, the Asians have figured it out like 60 years ago. And there was no legitimate reason for me to get involved with algae. I have an MBA. I was doing international economic development. Then my sister got sick, and then I just helped her, and then I wanted to help more people, and I kept going. I had no science background at all. I'm completely self-taught. I call myself a citizen scientist, which I was going to mention this at the very beginning. Everybody who's listening, you need to consider yourself a citizen scientist. It is your job to find out how your body works and find out what you need to give it so that you do not have to be a statistic. You can turn around that trajectory that you are on if you do not do something like this, an algae intervention, because your body is not giving you the antioxidants you need to protect yourself from free radical damage. And the world that you live in is too toxic, and it's dumping on your body and your immune system things that you just cannot continue to get access to and expect to live a healthy life. It's just impossible. So I have no science background. I've tried to do as much heavy lifting for you as possible. I've probably read 3,000 NIH articles at this point. I've been on over 200 podcasts. I speak nationwide. I've written about 500 papers. I'm in the process of getting a book. I'm going to do a TED Talk.
Nice.
I will do as much as I can to help you understand the science of algae and the science of your body. We write a blog on our website. You could just come to our website. Don't even buy anything. Just educate yourself. But be careful on the internet in general, because nobody understands algae like I do. And so there's a lot of stuff that's out there that's actually incorrect. And I'm here to help you, learn from my 12 years. I've given you a bit of a brain dump, and you can listen to this multiple times, and we'll send you a lot of articles that you can link to. But I can promise you, if you start taking both the spirulina and the chlorella, you, your children, your pets, your family, your health will improve, and so will the world, because it's also the most eco-friendly, sustainable crop in the world. And so the earth is begging you to wake up and help it, because
I love it.
It needs help and it doesn't have a voice.
I love it. And especially as you dive in, first of all, you have a PhD in algae.
Life.
You've
Algae,
12,
I do. I know.
Well, you've been studying it for 12 years as a scholar. So,
There you go.
Harvard would give you an honorary PhD at this point. Listeners could go to episode 357 to learn about the debunking algae myths, especially as you start for those listeners who consider themselves citizen scientists, and want to dive into the research. Episode 357 is great for that. Episode 266, we talk about vitamin K2 and how the importance of that in relationship to algae. And then episode 234 and 265, we just do an even deeper dive than what we did today about these crops and understanding how these crops are made. So if you want to go back and sort of have the behind the scenes tour of how these crops are turned into these wonderful little tablets and all that, then you can go back to those episodes as well. And we'll link these for previous 4 interviews in today's episode, along with all the articles that Catherine's going to give us to start diving in and digesting ourselves. And I love it. You can go to energybits.com and just start pouring through the information there. And of course, use coupon code LTH anytime to get the listener discount. Okay, so listeners at this point are sold. They want their mitochondria to be healed. They want all the benefits you just mentioned. I'm especially thinking about heart health, brain health. I'm so excited about helping listeners to protect their mitochondria, to heal their mitochondria. Which one would be the best bag to buy if they're just starting out and they're like, there's like 4 different bags. I don't know which one to buy. Which one should they buy?
Well, because Vitality Bits is a blend of both the spirulina and the chlorella, that might be the way to go.
Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I think the spirulina has the highest superoxide dismutase and the highest glutathione, and then the chlorella has the highest chlorophyll and the highest melatonin. And they do, as I said, they do different things. So, but both of them have the highest of all 4 antioxidants. But if you take the Vitality Bits, it gives you a nice mix of the 2 of them. So that would be my suggestion if you can only buy 1 bag. And if you are able to buy 2, then I would get the energy bits. Well, someone joked, they said, well, you have a boy spirulina and a girl spirulina. Remember, energy bits and beauty bits are identical. So that would be what you would take in the morning. I personally love the beauty bits, so that's what I have on my countertop because I'm a girl. And it's a very attractive packaging. I design everything, and it's my homage to Mother Nature. The energy bits is blue because Spirulina came from the ocean, and so it's in a blue ocean color package. The Beauty Bits has a gorgeous pink rose on it, which is, Mother Nature knows beauty is healing. And so there's no shame in wanting to improve your own beauty. I mean, Mother Nature does it every day with the gorgeous flowers that she provides for us. The chlorella has a green leaf on it. And of course, chlorella does belong to the plant kingdom, so it's a green package. And the Vitality Bits is in a bold red, sort of a fuchsia red color, because it is a blend of the two colors, the green and the blue, and it's almost a purpley color. So you can, I used to have friends say, oh, I want 2 blue bags and a couple of green bags. So some people buy it by the color. But the spirulina is generally the best in the morning, the afternoon, when you're hungry and tired. And the chlorella, which is the healing recovery bits, definitely before bed, but anytime that you want. And most people, as I said, do swallow the spirulina, the blue and the pink one, and they do enjoy eating the chlorella with either macadamia nuts or sea salts or pistachio nuts. The Vitality Bits is a blend, so it's kind of up to you and your flavor, but there's no shame in swallowing them. You can swallow them, chew them, add them to smoothies, grind them up first. They don't melt they don't dissolve. They're very concentrated. And just so you know, each tablet has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. 1 tablet. So again, if you have parents, grandparents who aren't eating well, just get even a couple of these. And if you take one or both of the algae, you can eliminate a multivitamin, especially spirulina, a multivitamin, eliminate your fish oil, eliminate CoQ10, biotin. You can clean up the clutter on your countertop with something that is nourishing and food. And with chlorella, because of the high chlorophyll, you don't need to, if you don't like them or can't get to them, you don't need to be preparing vegetables as frequently, because it gives you all the nourishment that you would find in greens. So it's
Well, I'm an overachiever. I just want more. So I'm going to eat my vegetables and I'm going to take this
There you
because
go.
I want to do both. But I can appreciate that people have gaps. There's some
Yes.
people that have gaps in their nutrition, and this is fantastic for filling it. And for me, I'm like, I want that optimal true health. I want the best of the best. So I'm going to adding this in addition to my vegetables.
Yeah.
But at times when I can't get a good meal, this is a fantastic quick food on the go that also happens to be the most concentrated amount of food nutrition I can get, which is super, super, super exciting.
Yeah.
One thing I want to finish
One
off
last
on.
thing I want to mention, because cancer and heart disease and all these other illnesses, Alzheimer's is so prevalent. When I mentioned 10 tablets a day, that's kind of for adults who are healthy. If anyone listening, or you have any family members, and we all do, who are experiencing cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, please double the amounts. I promise, triple the amounts. There is no upper limit.
It's a crop.
It's a crop. It's a vegetable. Your poop might be a little green. Drink a little extra water because there's high protein, and that your body needs water to process protein. Please, please, please get them on this stuff. I promise you it will make a difference. Cancer cannot exist in an alkaline environment. Algae is the most alkalining food in the world. That's how I got started. My sister's oncologist told her to eat an alkaline diet when she was preparing for chemo. So this is, and we'll send you a link to a PowerPoint, and it will give you lots of other references. There's hundreds and hundreds of science references in my presentation that we'll send you. Trust me when I tell you this is the most natural, effortless, non-invasive way to nourish and heal your cell and your mitochondria and your health. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity, Ashley, to help people understand this.
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to use the word desperation, but I hear passion, and I hear you're almost like the tone of your voice. First of all, you have so much even more information than the last time I interviewed you. But I hear an essence in your voice, and you know what? It's the word desperation is completely wrong. That's not it. It's urgency.
Yeah, urgency.
There is a level of urgency that this deserves, because people's lives are at stake.
Yep.
And for me, having suddenly lost my mom at 55 and my dad at 62, young, young ages. And, there's, it's so sad that some people just like drop dead in their 40s of a heart attack out of nowhere, like young, young. I have a mom friend of mine who died of cancer. I have another mom friend who's fighting cancer. These are now these diseases that were maybe diseases of 80-year-olds are now diseases of 30-year-olds and
Yeah.
40-year-olds. Like
Yeah. It's unacceptable.
it is unacceptable. It's
It's
unacceptable that,
unacceptable.
teenage athletes drop dead of all of a sudden a heart attack. It's unacceptable, right? So we need to take matters into our own hands. There's a level of urgency, and you have an urgency that we need to get the algae to be accepted in mass, right?
Yeah.
Widely. So
Yeah.
you've converted us. We're believers. We're excited. I know my listeners who haven't tried your algae are going to jump and try it. Please come into the Learn to Health Facebook group and let's talk about it, listeners. Those who have tried the algae, tried the energy bits, please come into the Learn to Health Facebook group and tell the listeners what your experience has been. Those who haven't tried it, come ask. Hey, tell me about it. Let's start a conversation about it. I want to hear your testimonials and your stories around it. And then those who are new to it, as you try it, please come to the Facebook group and share. One thing I wanted to say is, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, those who are very sensitive, like I am, to detox and to toxins. I'm one of those people. The second I start detoxing, I feel it hugely. And I found that when I eat 30 of the tablets of the recovery bits, which is the chlorella, that is the magic number for me to not feel detox effects when I'm going through a heavy metal detox. That for me is the magic number. Dr. Klinghardt said that's about the amount of, like, a good handful
Yeah.
is what you want to take when you're doing heavy metal detox. If you take less and you're doing a heavy metal detox, you kind of are dusting in a room with no windows open and no air filter on. You're just kicking up the toxins from inside the stores, because toxins will store up. When I say toxins, I mean man-made toxins and heavy
Yeah.
metals. I don't mean like byproducts of cellular waste, natural
Yeah.
byproducts of cellular waste. That's normal. I mean like the 80,000 man-made chemicals over the last 40 years
Right.
that we're now exposed to, that our body has to figure out how to process, plus heavy metals that are in our air, food, medications, and soil, and water. And so it gets stored in adipose tissue. Even if you're skinny, you still have some fat. It gets stored in that. And then when we do any kind of detoxing or weight loss, it gets thrown back into the blood system for your body to have to figure out how to get rid of. And if you're like me and my liver's not really great with detoxing, then it's just going to re-damage everything. And re-damage everything and then get back into the fat cells until I do more weight loss or do more detoxing, and then it comes back out. It damages everything and then it goes back in. And so instead of getting out of my body, so eating 30 of the recovery bits is what mops it up and
Yeah.
allows it to leave my body, and without any feeling any ill effects of detox. So that was my thing. And Dr. Klinghardt said, and he confirmed this, that if you eat less than 30 and you're doing detox, you're going to still feel sick if you're like me. So eat 30, don't be shy, just a handful every day if you're going to do detox, like doing sauna or other detoxing things. Because I've heard from a handful of people, not a lot of people. I've seen people eat 5 and have no problem, right? But people who are also sensitive like me, if they're doing a detox and they eat less, they'll then feel sick and they go, oh, this algae made me sick. And I'm like, no, it's not the algae that made you sick. You didn't take enough of it to mop up. And
Right.
then they trust me enough to try again. They're like, you're right. I tried 30 and I don't feel anything at all. But if I eat 10, I feel sick. But if I eat 30, I don't feel sick. And I'm like, see, there you go. It
Right.
mops it up at 30, but you don't get enough of the mopping up effect if you eat 10. So
Yeah.
that's been my experience.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's why you'll get the wellness benefits from, 5 or 10. But if just so you know, and I'm not boasting about this, I probably eat 100, 150 chlorella a day and have every day for 12 years. And I mean, I love the stuff. It's a main food for me. Probably eggs and algae are the two things. It's ironic. When I first started the company, I didn't have any money, and the only things I could afford were eggs and algae. And here I am. I'm finally, not desperate again like I was 12 years ago. But my favorite food are eggs and algae. So, but and I'm not suggesting you need to eat 100, but I just share that with you to show you that there is no upper limit. So if you can take the 30, that is the magic number. In fact, we sell them in boxes on our website in pouches with 30 tablets in it. So for those of you who can, it makes it so easy, because all you do is you start your day with a pouch of spirulina with the 30 tablets, and you end your day with a little pouch of chlorella with the 30 tablets. You don't even have to think about it. We also sell them in canisters that come with a bag inside. You open the bag, you put it in the canister, and then you just leave it on your countertop, and then you just shake out the tablets through the little opening in the canister. It's adorable. It's beautiful. It's effortless. And then when you run out of tablets, you just buy another bag and you fill it back up with the canister, because we found people were sticking their hand in the bags and they're getting green powder on their hands. It was messy. So we've done our best to make it as effortless for you. The little pouches that we call them travel single servings, they're not really complete, are just the best. Just buy a bunch of boxes of those. And if you want to learn more too, you can also, we're very active on social media. Energy Bits is the main handle, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And Beauty Bits has her own Instagram handle if you want to see the girly stuff. It's just at Beauty Bits. they're like kids, right? They have complete different personalities.
So funny. I mean, I'm not one of those pink, I'm kind of like, why is everything pink? Like I'm not a pink girl.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you do that for the girls that, for the women who like it. I personally don't. I don't know. I like climbing trees when I was a kid, and I believe that as a female, we have such a beautiful spectrum of what being a woman is, right? Being a woman is anything that we say we are. We are strong. We are so amazingly strong. And I have this wonderful naturopathic physician who's been practicing for close to 40 years now. She's delivered over 1,000 babies, and she used to be the dean of the naturopathic college at Bastyr University here in just outside of Seattle. Her name's Dr. Molly Niedermeyer, and she says that women they're so strong. Like blood tests just show that they should be dead. You know what I mean? It's like it's like, where are you? Like your energy levels are through the floor, your cortisol's through the floor, through the roof. Like if a man was and I'm not putting you guys down, but just as a comparison, we drag our bodies through the mud. We have a willpower and a determination to be the most amazing mothers, the most amazing wives, the most amazing businesswomen, and students, and whatever we put our minds to. Our physiology will keep us going. Our mental, our mindset, our willpower. But we will drag our bodies through the mud and a lot of times put ourselves last, because we are taking care of everyone we love. And then finally our body breaks, and then we finally have to take care of ourselves. And I really don't want, because I hit that breaking point 15 years ago, and I was incredibly sick. And now, I've spent the last 15 years recovering my health from that and going, okay, as I put my oxygen mask on first, in order to take care of those I love. So we have to flip that mindset and go, for example, I buy Energy Bits to take care of myself so I can take care of my loved ones. Feed them to your kids and feed them to you. Feed them to your husband, feed them to the whole family. But make sure you I know that there's some listeners right now going, I can't wait to give this to my kids. But it's like, oh, money's tight. I'm going to buy this for my kids, but not for me. Or I'm going to buy this for my husband, but not for me. I know you're thinking that. I'm in your brain. And here's the thing. If you get sick, who's taking care of the ones you love? You've got to take care of yourself. Yeah. Please, please, please. Putting yourself first isn't selfish. Putting yourself equal to your kids and husband in terms of the importance of health is necessary to take care of those you love. So please try it. Do yourself that service and try it. And I think this is going to...
My final sort of comment is that I saw a great quote on the internet, and it said, self-love is giving the world the best of you, not what's left of you.
Oh,
And that really resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with you. And
I love it.
I need to run,
I
but
love it. Oh,
I've
thank
got
you so much,
yeah.
Catherine, for coming on the show. This has
Yeah, well,
been
thank you for having me,
wonderful.
Ashley. This is so great, and I'm so grateful to share again with your community. And like I say, this is a labor of love for me, and I've got to get people using this so they can regain their health naturally. It's possible. It doesn't have to be complicated or expensive. But you've got to do it.
Love it. Love
Citizen
it.
scientists, reunite.
Yes, absolutely. Well, come back on the show when you discover more information. I know we
Okay.
just keep going down that rabbit hole. Listeners, go to learntrail.com to get all the show notes and get all the links to everything that Catharine Arnston is going to link to us, all those articles, so you can dive down into the science. And please go to energybits.com, try the chlorella and the spirulina, and use the coupon code LTH to get the listener discount that Catharine so generously gives us. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited to hear the feedback from the listeners as they go down this rabbit hole with us, and they notice that their health becomes even better and better from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And all the best to everybody.